Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram. Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Ashtottara Shata Shri Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON Samstapakacharya Jagadguru Seva the whole world Srila Prabhupada Ki Nitai Gaura Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 3, text number 3. Yasya avayava samsthanaihi, yasyavayava samsthanaihi kalpito loka vistaraha, kalpito loka vistaraha tadvai bhagavato rupam, tadvai bhagavato rupam vishuddham sattvam urjitam, vishuddham sattvam urjitam yasyavayavo samsthanaihi kalpito loka vistaraha tadvai bhagavato rupam vishuddham sattvam urjitam. Word for word meaning. Yasya, whose, avayava, bodily expansion, samsthanaihi, situated in, kalpitaha, is imagined, loka, planets of inhabitants. Vistaraha, various. Tatvai, but that is Bhagavataha, of the personality of Godhead. Rupam, form. Vishuddham, purely. Sattvam, existence. Urjitam, excellence. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. It is believed that all the universal planetary systems are situated on the extensive body of the Purusha, but he has nothing to do with the created material ingredients. His body is eternally in spiritual existence par excellence. Please repeat this translation. It is believed that all the universal planetary systems are situated on the extensive body of the Purusha, but he has nothing to do with the created material ingredients. His body is eternally in spiritual existence par excellence. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The conception of the Virat Rupa or Vishwa Rupa of the Supreme Absolute Truth is especially meant for the neophyte who can hardly think of the transcendental form of the personality of Godhead. To him, a form means something of this material world, and therefore an opposite conception of the Absolute is necessary in the beginning to concentrate the mind on the power extension of the Lord. As stated above, the Lord extends His potency in the form of the Mahat Tattva, which includes all material ingredients. The extension of power by the Lord and the Lord Himself personally are one in one sense, but at the same time the Mahat Tattva is different from the Lord. Therefore, the potency of the Lord and the Lord are simultaneously different and non-different. The conception of the Virat Rupa, especially for the impersonalist, is thus non-different from the eternal form of the Lord. This eternal form of the Lord exists prior to the creation of the Mahat Tattva, and it is stressed here that the eternal form of the Lord is par excellence, spiritual or transcendental to the modes of material nature. The very same transcendental form of the Lord is manifested by His internal potency, and the formation of His multifarious manifestations of incarnations is always of the same transcendental quality without any touch of the Mahat Tattva. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, further discussing from Srimad-Bhagavatam, here there is a description of the Virat Rupa or the universal form of the Lord. In the Bhagavad-gita, Krishna says, Avajananti mam mudha Manushim tanumashritam param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. Avajananti mam mudha. Manushim tanumashritam. My transcendental form looks like a manusha, looks like a human being. So therefore, avajananti mam mudha. People in this material world mistake my transcendental form to be like that of an ordinary human being. And param bhavam ajananto, my param bhava, my supreme nature, divine nature, is known to the people of this world. So, the most difficult thing to conceive and understand and appreciate is the transcendental spiritual form of the Lord. And if one is not able to appreciate the transcendental spiritual form of the Lord, one cannot appreciate the transcendental activities of the Lord also. And unless one is able to absorb his consciousness in the transcendental form, qualities of the Lord, there is no question of real happiness and satisfaction. Because in the Bhagavad-gita, Krishna says, Machitta Matgata Prana Bodhayanta Parasparam Namasyante Semam Nityam Tushyanti Cha Ramanti Cha. My devotees are always engaged in discussing about my name, form, qualities and activities. And by doing so, they derive great bliss, great satisfaction and great happiness. So if one has to experience that, then one must be able to accept the transcendental form of the Lord as completely spiritual, which is very difficult. And without that, there is no question of appreciating the transcendental activities of the Lord. So generally in the material world, people are overawed by something great, something huge, something vast, especially since the advent of modern science and technology. The efforts of some of the top minds in the world is to explore the space, explore the cosmos. So any scientist is actually dumbstruck by the vastness of this cosmos. So many huge planets, so many galaxies, so many stars, so many comets. So it actually completely, a person is stupefied and flabbergasted and is wonderstruck with the vastness of this creation. So the conditioned soul is able to appreciate the greatness of this material energy by direct perception itself. Like scientists have powerful telescopes to be able to see the different planets and the galaxies and everything, and they appreciate and wonder. But it is not possible to understand that behind this there is a transcendental personality, Krishna. That is not possible by direct perception. That is only possible by Shabda, hearing from authority. There is no other way. But nevertheless, in order to help the conditioned soul to appreciate the spiritual form of the Lord, Bhagavatam in the beginning, this is first canto. So in the beginning, Srimad-Bhagavatam is introducing the conception of Virat Rupa. That is why in the verse itself it is mentioned, Kalpito Lokavistaraha. Kalpita means it is imaginary. There is no such universal form existing anywhere like that. But this entire material creation, entire material cosmos itself, in one sense, it is one with the Lord. And at the same time is different from the Lord. So that is mentioned by Srila Prabhupada here. So in order to help the conditioned soul to conceive the Lord's spiritual form, which is not possible now in the neophyte stage. So therefore, the idea of Virat Rupa is for the neophyte. Why? Because neophytes cannot think of the transcendental form of the Lord. Why transcendental form of the Lord the neophytes cannot think? Because form means something material. This is the default conception that everyone has got. Therefore, the Virat Rupa is described in the Srimad-Bhagavatam to help the neophyte to concentrate the mind on the power extension of the Lord. These are the words used by Srila Prabhupada. Power extension of the Lord. So the Lord is transcendental, and we have got a relationship with the Lord, that of engaging in loving devotional service. But in order to be able to appreciate Krishna as the cause of all causes, as a cause of this entire cosmic manifestation, it is first necessary to appreciate the power of the Lord. Because when we see the Lord, especially Krishna's transcendental form, one is unable to appreciate that the Lord is the cause of all causes. Suppose we go to a scientist who is studying this entire cosmos, and then we call him for Janmashtami, and then we tell, here is one Unjal Seva, you can swing the Lord. And then if you tell this Laddu Gopal, he is the cause of all causes, he is the cause of your Milky Way galaxy which you are studying day and night, the scientist cannot conceive. He cannot appreciate how this young baby, you are all worshipping, baby Krishna, this is the cause of all causes, the cause of entire cosmic manifestation. So scientists cannot conceive. Why scientists? Even Brahma, who knows that my Supreme Lord, he does incarnate once in a while in this material world. Even Brahma gets bewildered, who is the most intelligent living being. Srila Prabhupada says, the most intelligent person in this creation is Brahma, who has created this entire universe, and who knows that my Supreme Lord is situated in Vaikuntha, and he also knows that my Supreme Lord does come and incarnate in this world. Even that Brahma, when he sees young Krishna as a young boy, Shri Krishna Balaram ki jai. Even that Brahma, when he sees Krishna as a young boy playing with cowherd boys, he becomes completely bewildered. And that is the whole Brahma Vimohana Leela in the Srimad-Bhagavatam. So what to speak of an ordinary scientist of this world who can, there is no question of him able to appreciate the transcendental form of the Lord, the child form of Krishna as the cause of all causes. So therefore, such pastimes of Krishna are mentioned in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, and in the first canto, first Srimad-Bhagavatam is introducing us to the idea of the Virat Rupa. Prior to this verse, it was mentioned about the Purusha incarnation, how Mahavishnu lies down in the universe, how all the universes are emanating from the Mahavishnu, so that we get a conception that this entire cosmos has emanated from Vishnu, so that our appreciation for the Lord increases. And here in this verse, the whole idea of Virat Rupa is mentioned, especially for the impersonalist, Prabhupada says. The extension of power by the Lord and the Lord himself personally are in one sense, but at the same time Mahatattva is different than the Lord. The conception of the Virat Rupa, especially for the impersonalist, here when the word impersonalist is used, we should know that in the beginning stage, when one is not engaged in fixed up in devotional service, more or less everybody is like that of an impersonalist only, because nobody in this material world whose consciousness is influenced by the three modes of material nature can conceive of the Lord's transcendental form. So therefore, Prabhupada says here that the conception of Virat Rupa, especially for the impersonalist, is non-different from the eternal form of the Lord. So the impersonalist or the neophyte for that matter, in the initial stage it is not possible for him to conceive the transcendental form of the Lord. So therefore, the conception of Virat Rupa is introduced so that he gets some idea, oh, this is the vastness of the Lord. And this way, further, one can, as one goes on reading Bhagavatam, one can understand Krishna's transcendental form. This is the very beautiful way in which Srimad-Bhagavatam progresses. And if you see in the 5th canto, the entire structure of the universe is described in detail. The different planetary systems are described. Jambudvipa is described. Jambudvipa is described as a huge disk. And in Jambudvipa, there are 7 islands. Jambudvipa is divided into 7 concentric circles. Bhumandala is described. Bhumandala is described as a huge disk. And Bhumandala is divided into 7 concentric circles, 7 islands. And within these 7 islands, the centermost island is Jambudvipa. And Jambudvipa is divided into 9 varshas, and among them 1 varsha is Bharata Varsha. So this is just one mandala, Bhumandala. Like that, there are upper planetary systems, there are lower planetary systems, there is Atala, Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Rasatala, so many different planets are described. And then the Swargaloka is described, then Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, up to Brahmaloka. All this is described in the 5th canto, so that we get an idea how vast, how great, how brilliant this universe is. After describing all this, in the 8th canto, Bhagavatam very beautifully describes that this entire vast universe, Vamana simply measured with 2 of his steps. That is also described. He just went to Bali, just asking for some charity of 3 paces of land, which is measured by his small feet. Bali said, okay, you take it. And then Vamana decided to measure, and this entire vast universe, Vamana measured it in just 3 steps. 2 steps, 3rd step he kept on Bali's head. So this way, Bhagavatam is further explaining us the glories of the Supreme Lord. And further, Bhagavatam goes on to describe that same Vamana is not different from Krishna, who is playing in the house of Mother Yashoda. So this is the way the Bhagavatam proceeds from the Purusha incarnation to the Virat Rupa, then to Vamana, then finally Bhagavatam goes on to describe that Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. All these personalities who have been described before in the Srimad-Bhagavatam, they are all Amsha or Kala, plenary portion or a portion of the plenary portion of the transcendental personality of Godhead, Krishna. So Bhagavatam, that is the aim of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, to bring all of us to the conclusion that the two-handed form of Krishna as the son of Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, is the cause of all causes. So this is the purpose in which Bhagavatam goes on. And here in the beginning, Bhagavatam's purpose is to help us understand the Virat Rupa. So, if we see, all that is explained in the Bhagavatam is summarized very nicely in the Bhagavad-gita. Srila Prabhupada writes in the introduction to Bhagavad-gita that Bhagavad-gita entails the comprehension of 5 basic truths. The entire philosophy of Krishna consciousness, whether we read Bhagavad-gita or Srimad-Bhagavatam or Chaitanya Charitamrita or any other scripture, entire Vedic literature discusses only 5 things. And these 5 things are summarized in the Bhagavad-gita. Ishvara, Prakriti, Kala, Jiva and Karma. That's all. There is nothing else beyond these 5 tattvas in the entire Vedic literature. Ishvara refers to the Supreme Lord. Prakriti refers to this entire cosmos, also to the 3 modes of material nature. Jiva, living entities, it refers to all of us. And Kala, because this creation has come about at a certain time. There is a beginning and there is an end to this creation. Therefore, Kala has to exist. And Karma, the activities performed by all the living entities. So there is Ishvara, Prakriti, Jiva, Kala and Karma. And any discussion in the Vedic literature is about either Ishvara, the Supreme Lord, or about Prakriti, this creation, or the living entities, how they are entrapped, or about Kala, how time, Kala takes away everything in this material world, or about Karma, the different types of activities that are performed by the living entities in the world. So this is the sum and substance of Vedic literature. Only these 5 tattvas are there. Out of these 5 tattvas, the spiritual world consists only of the Supreme Lord, Ishvara, and the living entities, Jivas, that's all. And the interaction between the Supreme Lord and the living entities is known as Bhakti, devotional service. So spiritual world is very, very easy to understand. It's very simple. The Lord is there, the living entities are there, and all the living entities are engaged in loving devotional service to the Supreme Lord. That's all. Nothing else is there in the spiritual world. Of course, that devotional service is of a very high quality, but spiritual world is, that sense, very easy. But this Prakriti, here is where all the complication comes. Prakriti is very, 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 very complicated. And the living entities are trapped in this Prakriti. And therefore, the living entity's life is also complicated. How it is complicated? It is complicated because of the influence of Kala, time, because everybody wants to work hard, do something, enjoy something, possess something, but Kala, time, is always dangling like a sword on everybody's neck. What will happen when nobody knows? This is the influence of Kala. And Karma, different types of activities the living entities are performed, thinking that this karma, this activity will make me happy, that activity will maybe make me happy, this activity will maybe make me happy. Ultimately, the goal is happiness, but through performance of different activities. But Bhagavatam mentions all these activities are useless. Even good activities are, in one sense, from the perspective of the spiritual world, completely useless. Why? Because no activity other than devotional service to the Supreme Lord can satisfy the soul. Yayatma suprasidati. Bhagavatam mentions that only devotional service to Krishna can satisfy the soul. Only spiritual activities can satisfy the soul. All other activities, yajna, dana, tapa, karma, jnana, study of the Vedas, whatever one may do, none of these activities have the potency to touch the consciousness and bring about the same effect as devotional service to Krishna can bring about. So Ishvara, Jiva, and the interaction between Ishvara and Jiva is there in the spiritual world. Material world is complicated because of Prakriti and the living entities' attitude to dominate this Prakriti. That is where the whole problem lies. The attitude of the Jivas to dominate and control and become the Ishvara is the cause of all troubles in this material world. And particularly in Kali Yuga, what happens? This domination, this attempt to dominate and control the material energy becomes more and more and more intense. And because of that, Prakriti produces severe karmic reactions, as we are able to see, in the form of diseases, in the form of war, in the form of pandemic. all these things. So there's a big problem in this material world going on. On one hand, the modern material civilization, which has sprung about based on logic and reasoning and scientific research, is offering hope that if we work hard and control the material nature more and more, we will all be very happy. And there are scientists who are working hard day and night to somehow find a solution to all problems. To that level in Kali Yuga, the advancement research in science and technology is going on. They are even trying to find out that a human being, he tends to age, he becomes old. What is the cause of that? And then they have even figured out there is a particular chromosome which is the cause of that aging. And in that chromosome, can we somehow change it? Can we somehow alter it? Can we somehow bring about some change in that so that we will make man live forever? We will never ever die. To that level, modern science is endeavoring hard. And this attempt is nothing new, because thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, there was another materialistic, demoniac person by name Hiranyakashipu who also wanted to do the same thing. So there's nothing new which is happening in this world. What scientists are trying, the ultimate desire and the ultimate achievement of modern science, as they are aspiring, is to somehow conquer death. Somehow make and invent that wonderful medicine, that wonderful injection, that amazing drug by which we will never die. And this attempt is nothing new. Thousands of years ago, Hiranyakashipu made the same attempt, and as modern scientists are working hard, severe tapasya, severe austerity they are taking. Huge amount of dollars of money are pumped into research laboratories to somehow find a solution to this aging problem, to this old age problem, disease problem, death problem. As thousands of years ago, Hiranyakashipu also took severe tapasya. So severe was Hiranyakashipu's tapasya that the entire universe became heated up, and the heat emanating from Hiranyakashipu's body started reaching the upper planetary systems, and all the devatas were feeling the heat, and they all went to Brahma and said, please stop Hiranyakashipu's ugra tapasya, we are not able to bear his heat. And then finally we all know how Bhagavatam mentions that Lord came as Narasimha and simply finished off Hiranyakashipu in no time. So Bhagavatam is educating all of us that there is no use in making such futile attempts, because no one can conquer Prakriti. Material nature has got certain laws. Those laws operate on all of us in the form of old age, disease and death, which nobody can overcome. So therefore, the only way by which we can find a solution to all the problems which are created is by devotional service. So on one hand, modern society, modern civilization is endeavoring very hard and producing so many wonderful things, but those very same things, when engaged in devotional service to the Supreme Lord, it regains its spiritual quality. Otherwise, one is trapped in karma. So this is the contribution of the Acharyas in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. That on one hand, the society is progressing, the civilization is progressing in a certain direction. What is that? Exploit the material energy to invent and create wonderful things for your own enjoyment. But if we do that, we get trapped in karma. So what can be done? The philosophy of the impersonalists that Jagan Mithya, just renounce everything and go away to the forest, doesn't help. It doesn't have any practical utility. But our Acharyas have taught that if we can engage all that is created in the modern civilization for the purpose of the Lord's service in the Sankirtana movement, in order to propagate the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, then everything regains its spiritual quality and it will no longer trouble us. That is how it is explained. And this point is very beautifully described in the Krishna book, in the Srimad-Bhagavatam. Because when Kamsa, when the 8th child of Devaki is about to be born, so Krishna, he orders Yogamaya. He goes and his principal energy, he goes and Krishna tells Yogamaya, you go and take birth in the house of Nanda Maharaj, and I shall take birth in the prison house where Devaki is there, and we will be swapped. And it is well known that Krishna appeared and then he was taken by Vasudeva in a basket, and there in Yashoda's house a baby girl was born. Vasudeva brought the baby girl and then kept it in Devaki's prison where Devaki was there. And next day morning news reached Kamsa that Devaki has given birth to a female child. So Kamsa immediately came, because the prophecy was that the 8th child is going to be the cause of Kamsa's death. So he came and he took the baby girl and he was about to smash it and kill the baby girl. The baby girl escaped from Kamsa's hands and then she became the 8-handed Durga. It's Mahamaya. So when Krishna was talking, it was Yogamaya, but when Kamsa appeared, same Yogamaya became Mahamaya, a different energy of the Lord. So all those people who wish to exploit this Prakriti, then Prakriti appears in a very fierce form as Durga Devi to give trouble. And all those who wish to engage this Prakriti in the service of the Lord, she appears like very blissful Yogamaya. So Prabhupada's, these are all very wonderful explanations given by Srila Prabhupada, that the energy is the same. Depending on the attitude of the living entities, Prakriti acts either as Yogamaya or as Mahamaya. So we, as devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we are being instructed by our acharyas to engage this Prakriti in the service of the Lord and not to exploit the Prakriti for one's own satisfaction. This way, we are saved from karma, because Prakriti, when engaged in the service of the Lord, does not produce karma, which is going to trouble us. And also, we are saved from the effects of Kala and Gunas also. So these are the few points which we can understand from today's verse. So we shall stop here. Grantaraj Srimad-Bhagavatam ki, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande.